Now, tons of projects, whether it be a renovation or a new house build, look great on paper. You might be predicting a 25 or 30% profit margin. But if you forget even these 5 things, you could find that you're adding another 10% to your cost and taking your profit down to almost nothing. Stick around and check out these 5 tips on extra costs that you need to think about when planning your spec project. Welcome back to our house here in Detroit, Michigan. Now, it's no secret that construction is very expensive. Buying a house is typically the #1 expense for your average family in the US. And in fact, besides being an expense, it's also a value add, and it's also the single most source of equity or wealth that an average family has. So far in this house, we spent over $125,000 on materials and almost $150,000 on labor, and we're not even done yet. A lot of people don't think about other auxiliary costs outside of your materials and labor that you'd normally think of for your house. Behind me here, you see all the cabinets for our house. Now, these house cabinets were semi-custom. So we picked them out of a catalog and had everything designed to fit our kitchen and every other area of the house. So not only do we have kitchen cabinets here, we have bathrooms, master bathroom, laundry areas, walk-in area, and a bar area. So you can imagine the bill for cabinets is huge. This is almost $20,000 worth of cabinets. But what you don't think about is other costs associated with cabinetry. Now, because we get these cabinets at a steep discount, we don't get any kind of warranties or replacement options if something goes wrong with the design. What this means is that if, say, something is made to the wrong height or designed incorrectly due to a change in the field after the design process, we're going to be hit with that bill. And on every house we do, we see that, we end up paying anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 in extra costs associated with our cabinets because we want to make sure that everything's done right. This could be molding pieces that were missed in the design, or transition pieces between, say, a tall cabinet that doesn't have a side face and a lower cabinet that has the countertop on top. So all these things tend to eat up into your profit margin. I can think of one project I worked on many years ago that the cabinets, they were ordered correctly. However, the designer did not consider the fact that they ordered 84-inch cabinets for an 84-inch ceiling. Now, that sounds all good, but then when you try to stand up this cabinet that's already pre-built, it's not going to go in, because when you stand up a cabinet at an angle, it's longer at an angle than when it's flat, and it's never going to tilt into the ceiling. That project, that wasn't me, but that cost the GC on that project about $5,000 because they had to order, I think it was 6 of these big 84-inch tall, 24-inch wide cabinets, all completely custom. So cabinets, you got to look at the extra expenses. I would factor in at least a 10% margin on your cabinet material. Number 2, you got to think about how you're going to maintain your property and keep things clean during construction. Now, the construction process can be a 6 or 9 month process, or if you mess up your schedule, call it a year. You don't want to be stuck with all these additional costs that maybe you didn't budget in, especially on a lower price project. On a lower price project, you could see holding costs run 10% of your total project costs. Now, let me tell you a little about holding costs. So right now behind me, we've got the furnaces running. These furnaces are necessary to keep this house heated because in Michigan, it can be 20 degrees outside on average in the winter. And we want to keep this place at least 65, nice and comfortable for our trades. And it's important to keep these things warm because stuff won't dry, like drywall, paint, wood flooring, all these things need to be conditioned throughout the entire build process. Now, for us in Michigan, we're using natural gas. So this expense could be anywhere from $100 to $300 a month. On this project, we're seeing bills around $200 a month for our normal gas in the winter. Over the course of this 6-month build, in addition to gas, we're going to have electricity, maintenance for cutting the grass in the summer, shoveling the driveway in the winter, and all these things that you might normally not think about. Plus, we're still paying property tax on this property. Altogether, on average, over the 9 months of this build, we're gonna be paying about $400 a month just to keep this build going from the outside and inside of the home. So at the end of the day, you could be talking $5,000 in addition to your build from the time of groundbreaking to when you finally sell the house. Number 3, things to think about when you're building a house or doing a renovation is fees for utility hookups, utility disconnects, and then permits from the city. In our city here, north of Metro Detroit, we're paying a 1% fee on all permits. And then there's also inspection fees for electrical, plumbing, mechanical, framing, and final. So altogether, we have about $14,000 in permits and fees for this project. And then tack on top of that, we had a disconnect for the water lines, and then hookup fees for electricity, gas, cable, you name it. So those disconnect and reconnect fees for all utilities, that's gonna be another $4,000. So altogether, we're at almost $20,000 in fees that are outside of the sweat labor and building materials on this house. Number 4, we're talking about material surcharges. Now this is a big one in 2020 and 2021. Because of the shortages, shipping costs, and all sorts of different outages around the country, both at factories and natural materials, we've seen anywhere from 10 to 20% increase on materials since we planned this project back way at the beginning of 2020. So do me a favor, support the channel, like this video, and leave a comment down below because it really helps me as a creator, helps the algorithm. That would really help out offset some of those additional costs from 2020. Material cost is usually just supply and demand. And this year, demand has been absolutely huge for the building industry. We've seen more houses go up this year, and it's approaching the pre-2008 building boom. We see people moving across countries out of big cities and into rural areas or less populated like us. This has had a major effect both on material cost and deliveries on time. I can't say I've ever seen a bigger issue this year with deliveries on time. Like I mentioned, factories have been shut down due to the virus, and shipping has been delayed due to different regulations from state to state. Sometimes this will take us, an extra week or two to get materials. This delays our crews, puts them outside of the normal schedule, and that means that there's gonna be additional costs, both in those holding costs because this project could get extended for a couple months, and in costs for the actual physical material. It's something you have to think about these days more than ever. I would put at least another 5% in your estimate just for delays and material increases. Now the 5th thing to think about when you're building a house or doing a large renovation, whether you're the contractor or the homeowner, is just mistakes and accidents. Unfortunately, we are all human and things happen. For example, this house, we had a window that got broke. We had a stair tread that got dented. Both these items had to be replaced. The window, that's a $150 repair plus labor. The stair tread, that's a $60 piece plus almost $200 labor. And you could look at all these things in a negative light and say, gosh, these guys are careless. Someone might knock into a window and it's gonna be an accident 90% of the time. And some of the times they might not even realize they've been doing it. And you gotta think it from a crew's mind. They made a mistake, but they didn't come here to take on the risk of building a home like you do when you're running a project. So I would always add about 2% to the project just for mistakes or errors that come from design or field work. Wrapping up this quick topic, the biggest thing is just to really do your homework when it comes to costs. Everything in your project you need to put together from the beginning, and every item such as materials and labor, you need to assign a worst case and a best case scenario. Find yourself somewhere in the middle, and then of course look at industry standard costs and pricing when it comes to every line item of your estimate of your project. If you do this, you're going to be in a good spot, and just know your first couple of projects can be rough. You're going to find things that you never would have imagined. I know when we did a house in downtown Detroit, we had a budget of $50,000. We ended up going to about $65,000. And all these things were things that you'd understand as a builder that have been working for years, but you'd never think about when you just get started. Hope this helped, guys. Take a look down at the other videos of this house build and you'll see a lot of items where you can catch little issues before they happen. As always, like this video, leave a comment down below, and if you want to see more content and find value from this channel, subscribe. It helps me, it can help you, and hopefully we can keep building together. Until next time, thanks for joining me on Andrew Built.